For any CPA firm, the real goal isn't just about being profitable this year. It's about being resilient for the long haul. So today, we're going to break down how to build a firm that's truly sustainable, future-proof, and just ready for whatever's coming down the pipeline.
So, let's start with a tough question, one for every partner, every manager out there. I want you to think about your last busy season. Yeah, I know. Were those endless nights and weekends really a badge of honor, a sign of your team's amazing dedication? Or were they maybe a symptom of a business model that's just cracking under the pressure?
Because the reality is the pressure is coming from everywhere. Am I right? Clients expect more, and they want it faster. Deadlines just feel like they get shorter every single year. The regulations are always changing, and finding, let alone keeping, good people has never been this hard or this expensive. If that sounds familiar, well, you are definitely not alone.
And all these pressures, they all point to one unavoidable conclusion. The old traditional model is breaking. For decades, the playbook was pretty simple, right? More work comes in, you hire more people. But that playbook, it just isn't working anymore.
Now, when we talk about disruption, I know what you're thinking. Your mind probably jumps straight to technology, AI, automation, all that stuff. But what if I told you the single biggest threat to your firm's stability isn't a piece of software at all? It's something much more fundamental.
The real threat is something we call capacity risk. And honestly, it's the silent killer for so many firms. It's that feeling, you know the one, where you're constantly falling behind because the work is just piling up faster than your team can possibly handle it. And that feeling isn't just stressful, it's actively eroding your profitability, the quality of your work, and ultimately your entire reputation.
And what happens is, it creates this vicious cycle. Just look at how this flows. First, the work piles up, totally overwhelming the team. That turns your senior staff, the people who should be mentoring and reviewing, into total bottlenecks. Then, as they get buried, quality starts to suffer. And finally, partners are forced to jump back into the day-to-day grind just to keep the ship from sinking.
So the big question is, how do we break this cycle? Well, it's not about working harder. It takes a completely new strategic approach, a fundamental rethinking of how work actually gets done in your firm.
This chart really shows the difference perfectly. The old way, traditional hiring, it locks you into this limited, really expensive local talent pool with high fixed costs. But the new way, it opens up a global talent pool and it shifts your costs from fixed to flexible. You can scale your capacity up or down based on your actual workload, which gives you a kind of agility that's just impossible with the old model.
And that leads us to probably the single most important mental shift a firm leader can make. You've got to stop asking, okay, who should we hire next? And instead, you need to start asking, what work absolutely must stay in-house? The stuff that protects our client relationships and our core strategy. That one little change in perspective, it makes all the difference.
See, when you reframe the question like that, you empower your best people. By moving all that process-heavy, execution-focused work to a dedicated partner, you free up your in-house talent to focus completely on what really drives value. High-level reviews, strategic client conversations, and actually growing the firm.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but where does this work actually go? Well, for a growing number of CPA firms, the answer is India. It has become a massive central hub for global accounting operations.
And there are some very specific reasons why India is the go-to spot. We're talking about a huge, highly educated workforce that's already trained in US GAAP and tax processes. This isn't just about getting some temporary help. It's about building a long-term, scalable extension of your team with mature operations designed from the ground up to align with US firms.
So what kind of work are we talking about here? What's ideal for this model? As you can see, it's the stuff that's process-driven, clearly defined, and let's be honest, super time-consuming. We're talking bookkeeping, reconciliations, AP and AR, and all that crucial prep work for tax and financial statements.
So by offloading this foundational work, you're not just saving time and headaches. You are actively building a much more resilient firm, right from the ground up.
Think about it like this. Your firm's stability is built on the strength of its back office. When that back office is strong and really well supported, you see the results immediately. Fewer errors, less burnout for your senior staff, and frankly, a huge boost in team morale. A weak back office, it just creates the exact opposite effect.
Because a strong back office, whether it's in-house or supported by a partner, delivers the one thing every single firm craves: predictability. It means clean data, accurate trial balances, and organized work papers are just the norm, not some lucky exception. It turns that chaotic peak season into a manageable, predictable, and highly productive time of year.
So this all leads us to the ultimate goal, right? Becoming a future-ready firm. But I know there are still some big, lingering questions that come up whenever firm leaders think about this model. So let's just tackle them head-on. The first one is always about control. It's your firm's name on the final product. So it's a totally fair question. If you outsource this work, are you going to lose control?
And the answer is a very emphatic no. A strategic partnership isn't about giving away control. It's about delegating execution. You maintain 100% ownership of your processes, the final review and approval, and, most critically, the relationship with your client. That never leaves your hands.
Okay, the next big question is about reliability. We all know accounting is cyclical. Can an offshore partner really provide the kind of consistency you need through every season, not just the busy one?
Absolutely. And this really highlights the difference between getting temporary help and forming a true strategic partnership. This model is designed for year-round consistency. It gives you a stable operational backbone you can rely on just as much in July as you can in March.
When it all comes down to it, it's this. In a profession that is built entirely on trust, the ultimate competitive advantage isn't just about having the most expertise. It's about having an operating model that is fundamentally built to last. And that leaves us with one final question for you. I want you to take a really hard look at your operations, at your team's workload, and at your real capacity for growth. And then ask yourself, is my firm built to burn out, or is it built to last? Because in the end, your operating model is going to be the answer.